speaking of new things, brand new segment. We're starting it every first Monday of the month. You know her on the Twitter machine at Miss Kate Fabe. She's doing Sour Graps. She's doing Fightful. She's doing the SmackDown Post Show. She's doing Ring of Honor. She's doing the Mark Order podcast. She has her own brand on YouTube under the heading Miss Kate Fabe, where she's doing weekly videos. It's our dear good friend Kate, and she's here for Kate's Corner.
I am. Thank you so much for introducing me as something new and not the part about the dumps. You're talking sticker dumps, and you were like, well, speaking of, I was like, oh no, he's going to be like, speaking of dumps.
It was a softball. He could have hit it out of the park. And...
How are you, fellas?
I didn't want to. I don't want to step on Tony's gimmick because he's the king of dumps. Although Tony did create this layout here, I just don't. Can people see? Look at Kate in the corner. There, little Kate there, a little logo there.
Kate. Hi, Kate.
Tiny Kate.
I know. What's going on?
I'm calling her Mini Kate.
Yeah.
We're doing great, Kate. We've had a full schedule the last couple of weeks with the Wizards and the 12th anniversary show and the Retro Wizards last week. So we haven't had a second to talk about it or digest it. And I actually talked about it with Kieran on the Bread Club today. The Continental Classic, the round robin concept, really fucking blowing the mind of American wrestling fans. They can't seem to grasp the concept. How are you dealing with this Continental Classic, as you call it, the C2?
Yeah, the C2, R2D2, G1, whatever it is, Continental Classic. I think it's been awesome. I think it's been a shot in the arm to the product that it desperately needed. There are some people who are disingenuously just like, I can't follow around Robin. What do all these dots in a grid mean? And then there are people who are like, this is different. I'm confused. What's going on? But I think it's been extremely well done in how we've gotten to where we're at so far and the possibilities that it leaves open. There's a lot of them. I feel like on the blue side, you've got Moxley and Swerve probably as like your top two that could emerge from there. And on the gold side, you've got Eddie Kingston, who now has his back to the wall, and Bryan Danielson. And I wouldn't be surprised to see if those were both the finals. And I feel like kind of any of them could win it, which is really refreshing. Like, if you invest this much into a tournament, it's really nice that it's not predictable. And I couldn't look at both sides and go, the finals are Omega Danielson 2, or like initially I figured Ospreay was going to be in it. And I was like, oh, maybe that's how we get to Ospreay Danielson. It could be kind of a lot of these guys. It could be an upset in Danny Garcia. It could be, like a really, really cool comeback story for Eddie if they want to stop going to the well of like, gosh, it slipped through his fingers again because now he has his back against the wall. It could go a lot of ways, but you're seeing these character arcs kind of come into play in a really refreshed way. And I think AEW was like teetering as just like a diet WWE there for a long time. And this has been a really refreshing way to set up maybe not as many long-term stories, but at least character arcs that are coming out of it. I think my favorite so far is actually Daniel Garcia. Like, we saw him lose, but you keep seeing him like almost win it. You're seeing him get away from that though, which is cool. Like, credit to my co-host who noted that like he lost with the sharpshooter, and the thing that makes his sharpshooter better than everybody else's in AEW is one, he can do it, and two, it's also the thing that makes him the most vulnerable. So if Daniel Garcia consistently loses, but then realizes he needs a mentor like a Bryan Danielson on the pro wrestling side, or he loses but plays spoiler for Danielson getting into the finals or something, there's a lot of fun to be had there. And I think so many people from Blackpool Combat Club being involved in this makes this really, really cool, because they're going to have to face each other at some point. In your finals, they could end up facing each other. But it's really cool because you get matchups you wouldn't really see otherwise because AEW is so stable heavy.
Right. So when I first heard about this concept, I do enjoy the G1 and I do enjoy the Super Juniors. I'll watch them. But when I first heard this concept, I'm like, oh man, they're really running out of ideas. That like now they just have to have like a tournament again to like get all these people over because they have no stories for them. But then my reasoning and my opinion of it changed. So I'm like, you know what? This is pretty cool. This is actually like looking at the charts, looking at the grids. It's actually kind of nice. And I'm like, all right, now it doesn't feel like wrestling. It feels like real sport.
Yeah.
To me. Like, you know what I mean? It feels like real sport. But then when you come back just now and mention the character arcs that could possibly come from it, it really does, with something that I never even thought of, ties both in together. And I am on board now with this Continental Classic, or the C2, if you will, because I'm looking at these records. I'm like, well, how does this guy have no wins? How does this guy have 2? How does this person have 1? How long? Like, it's just so phenomenal. And like, I am totally on board with this because of all the things that you just mentioned. The potential for character arcs, the potential for future stories, the potential for, ongoing feuds from this. To me, it seemed like a crutch at first. But now, like, I'm 100% into it, Kate.
I think if the G1 is used to set up a ton of stories for the rest of the year's programming, I think this is used as a reset in AEW for that character aspect of it and some long-term stories. So I feel like right now Eddie Kingston is down 6 points. If he wins, I think he wins the whole thing. Otherwise, I think he's 3 and out, and maybe you're getting like a heel turn or some sort of like rebuild like we've never had to see before. Danielson is Danielson. He'll probably be in the finals. He's the best wrestler in the world. Brody King having 6 points is super interesting. He beat Claudio.
Right.
The idea that Eddie Kingston to get to the finals would have to go through Claudio, who he already beat for that ROH title, and then assuming he'd have to beat Danielson in the finals. What if Mox is the guy on the other side? Like, that's really, really interesting character-wise. Garcia, we kind of already covered. Claudio, I don't think is going to win, but he'll have some great showings. The only one that I'm kind of like iffy on is I need Jay White to have something that he can sink his teeth into. And I think the Juice Robinson injury really screws this up because I don't think anybody has a ton of interest in Jay White and the Guns as much as they did Bullet Club Gold. So I need him to have a strong showing and find something important to do sooner than later. I've said if they're going to go after Dolph Ziggler, I can't think of anybody better to step in the Juice Robinson role than Dolph Ziggler. Like, that guy would have the comedic timing, the in-ring wherewithal. You could set up something super fun for him and Juice when he gets back. So I think there's things there. I hated what they did to him after the MJF match. And I thought this tournament might be a place to rebuild it. And I think it could be, but he's the only one in this where I'm trying to do some math and I can't really see where it goes for him other than him looking really good at a tournament, which he's done before. So he could do it again.
Who is your, I guess I'll come right to it. Who's your pick?
So the Eddie Kingston...
I'm sorry, Kate. This goes for everyone too, by the way. But
sure. So I don't know if it's just the mark for Eddie Kingston in me, but I do feel like he's the one who put the titles on the line. He beat Claudio to win the ROH championship. He loves working Japan. I just, in my gut, I have no other reason to think this other than a gut feeling. I feel like this is going to be a collision-based title because the world title is on Dynamite and the TBS title is kind of caught up in this really fun storyline with Christian, but I think they could use something that feels really, really important. And hopefully it would be defended in ROH for a change, which means you would want it on a Saturday taping schedule. So to me, that takes Swerve out of the picture. I think Swerve's going to win the world title sooner rather than later anyway. So I'm looking at Mox, who also likes to work Japan. I'm looking at Danielson, who him having an ROH title again would be a dream. But like the idea that Eddie would finally be able to overcome all this, and the promos he's giving after play into this to me, but he's just a really good promo. But him having to beat the rest of the Blackpool Combat Club, have to beat Claudio again to get there. Like, if they want him to climb to the top of the mountain in the way that would be the most satisfying to fans after he has continually been the guy who is too good to need a belt, that's the dude. Like, to me, that's the guy. It's also hard for me to sit here and not say, like, Bryan Danielson shouldn't have a belt in AEW. Like, he's so unbelievable. But I do think maybe like it's almost his retirement tour is too big for it in a way. Like he's going to want to face Ospreay. He's going to want the Okada rematch. He's going to want the CSJ rematch. You could set that up, but you're probably not doing that in Strong realistically, right? So to me, my pick is Eddie. That's probably half thinking with my head and half thinking with my heart, but it would be such a complete story for him to put those titles on the line, not sabotage himself finally, and to be all of the Blackpool Combat Club outside of Wheeler Yuta to do it. It's just like chef's kiss to me.
Yeah. So Matt, who do you think is who's taking it?
So I'm not. Here's the thing. Because it's very so on Ring of Honor TV. Eddie Kingston is still defending the Ring of Honor World Champion. He is technically still the Ring of Honor champion until this thing is over at the end of the month. The New Japan Strong title, I just don't think. I don't think that's the thing anymore. I think, like New Japan Strong is not it's not a brand anymore, right? Because I think they're gonna. And I talked about this on the Bread Club with Kieran, which you can listen to later this week. But he has it on good authority that Eddie was not going to be the champion, but Tony Khan had gone to him and had asked New Japan to keep the title on Eddie because they're going to do this. So I think they went in a different direction, and here we are with this weird Triple Crown. I don't think you're going to see this defended in New Japan at all. I think this is going to be a strictly AEW thing. The New Japan AEW relationship is not. It's not good. It doesn't benefit anyone from New Japan. I don't know.
Do you think we could see more of an ROH New Japan crossover though? Because that's where my head went.
Who? First of all, who's under the Ring of Honor banner besides Athena?
Well, I feel like we've gotten some more clarity on that, right? Like I think
Ethan Page just showed up on Collision and challenged Kenny Omega to a match that's going to happen on Collision in Canada. That has Ethan Page just climbed the rank in Ring of Honor. He's going to get in there with Kenny Omega. He's going to lose. So everything that happened in Ring of Honor means nothing. But I don't know. Like there's a couple.
Who wins it?
There's redemption stories you could tell. Eddie Kingston has to win out, and he needs a lot of help from everybody else. You could do something sneaky with Roosh. I'm with Kate. I think Swerve goes after MJF and the world title. Moxley's always there. I really like Brody King as a singles, especially if we're doing Malachi and Buddy calling out FTR. He's different than anything we've really seen. He's like if they actually gave a shit about Lance Archer. That's what Brody King is.
Yeah, but Lance is almost, I guess, because Brody just has so much mass. Like, you don't see Brody going to the top rope ever. You know what I mean? But I wish they would give a shit about Lance Archer. Yeah, that's true.
Brody can go to the top rope, and Eddie Kingston and Claudio are no slouches. That's two huge wins for him. To think that he can't take out Andrade and Garcia, which would put him way ahead of the pack. I think it comes down to him and Danielson in the Blue League. And then someone's got to play spoiler, right? All these guys, Garcia's going to pull some wins out and fuck somebody over. And I think the version of Jay Lethal we're getting, right? When you take him away from Sanjay Dutt and Jeff Jarrett, like this is the version of Jay Lethal you wanted when they announced they signed him, this wrestling machine. And I think it's starting to kind of come to the surface here with this Continental Classic.
So I kind of have a little bit of a different approach because you guys both mentioned Swerve and how you think he's going for MJF. I kind of have a different take on that. So like right off the gate, Swerve is who I think is going to win it. A
lot of people do because he's just on this tear right now.
Because I feel like there's still too much meat on the bone with the whole MJF, Adam Cole, Samoa Joe, Roderick Strong situation and the devil stuff. So this will keep Swerve intensely strong. He'll have a championship. Listen, we've had like Adam Cole and MJF are the Ring of Honor tag team champions and still like main event. So like Swerve could still get that chance, and maybe they do like maybe one day he recreates a picture like Ultimo Dragon with all like 10 belts if one day he does win the world championship. But I think there's way too much meat on the bone left in that main event right now that Swerve is still he'll get there. but he might just have to wait a little longer. And I think this will satiate him and his fans and the AEW TV audience who absolutely love him more. And then you have a ready-made run it back with Adam Page thing. You have a ready-made like all this stuff, and now it's for a championship. So like I think my gut tells me Swerve. But like you said, there's a plethora of ways they can go. Oh, I'm leaking everywhere.
Kevin's leaking everywhere. Well, the Continental Classic has definitely made AEW, more enjoyable to watch. You get all these fun matchups that do have a stake to them. So I've enjoyed it a little more. There's a lot less gaga on Collision and Dynamite. It's still there. There's still gaga there. But, you're going to tell me you're going to give me Jay Lethal and Swerve Strickland as a main event as part of this tournament. Like, it's better than just Ethan Page and Kenny Omega, which I'm sure will be fine, but there's no rhyme or reason for it. Ethan Page is from Canada, so is Kenny Omega, and they want to find out who the best Canadian is. Bret Hart is not in the match, guys, so knock it the fuck off. Kate, you are awesome. These are not long segments.
We didn't hear HK's pick, though.
Oh, I'm sorry. HK doesn't respond to text messages.
Oh, okay, then I'm out.
I didn't realize you texted me.
I did. I didn't. What do you got, HK? Give us the skinny before we let Miss Kate Fabe kick rocks and go watch Monday Night Raw.
All right, two quick things I want to say. One, I think that they fucked themselves. If they had introduced this before they had already had a number of tournaments, I think it would have done a world of good for them. But when they introduced this, it's like, hey, we have another tournament. So I already kind of tapped out on it. And like, we have another tournament, and guess what? It's a little bit more confusing than the average tournament. Not saying that I don't understand or anything like that, but I think that's where they lost me. Not to say that there's not good story arcs, there's not stories that they can tell through it, but I think that having as many tournaments as they have had already, and now they're introducing another tournament with muddier waters, it just bothers me. With that being said, Hart, Briscoe. I would love to see them do something with Briscoe. It would be amazing to me for them to do something with them. I don't see them doing that, but that's what I would like them to do. Outside of that, it's hard not to just say Cheeseburger Eddie.
Eddie. Well, this is what I love about it too, is you got that promo from Eddie at the end of the episode, and then I'll get out of here because I'm not trying to hijack your show, but like him adding this element of intensity to Danielson and Claudio now. Like, you know what, Claudio, you can thank your buddy when I come in there and kick your ass even harder. Like, now you're going to have that play into the Danielson Claudio match, and I don't think it's going to be tension that ends the Blackpool Combat Club or anything, but I just love the way that the arcs are feeding into tournament stories, and I'm sure we'll get some stories coming out of it. So I'm with you, HK. There's been a little bit of tournament fatigue, but I love tournaments, and I think this is a great one, and I think they desperately needed this to get back to their roots. So I slept well on it then and got back in.
Our tournaments, Kate. Their roots are tournaments.
Tournaments are great. I love tournaments. Take that over a battle royal anyway.
Well, it's love to have you here, Kate. We'll see you later.
You bite your tongue. Battle royals rule.
They do not. Bye. It's good to see you guys.
The first edition of Kate's Corner. Kate's Corner was a fantastic success. Follow Kate on Twitter at Miss Kate Fabe, at Miss Kate Fabe on the YouTube, and I will put all Kate's links in the show description so you can follow her and keep tabs on what she's up to. One of the bright voices in the wrestling community. Kate, Tony sends his love. He misses you, but he'll be back later. I guess I don't even know if he's gonna fucking show up tonight, but
tell him
it's been a pleasure, Kate.
Tell him thanks, sugar tits, and I'll see him on the next one.
All right.
Love you guys.
Later, Kate's. Miss Kate Fabe. She's out of here. Content.